Let's go.
You see the pictures I paint, son. If I ain't the king of New York, then it ain't one.
What's up, YouTube? So, like I said in the last clip, my father recently had surgery, so, I had to go check on him. Go check on my parents, and, he's recovering, so he's doing better. So, now I'm back to work. Overall, the dually is coming along nice. The body work is essentially done. The cab corner's been fixed. The rocker panels are done. I think I got all the cracks in the fiberglass. There's been a lot of more body work that I haven't shown you guys yet, but we're just about there. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna finish sanding the truck down, and then we're gonna be ready for primer and then paint, of course. So before I get to that, I want to tie up some things under the hood. It's already been tuned up, so that's not really an issue. What I'm working on today is the belts. Recently, when I was driving the dually, the alternator belt actually snapped on me. It was just old. It just dry rotted, snapped, and I replaced it. But while I was looking at it, I noticed the other belts weren't looking too good either. I don't know if you guys can see that. See the teeth missing in that one? So I bought some new belts. I've decided to just change everything while I can. And that'll be it. Now, I know a lot of guys prefer the Serpentine setup as opposed to the V-belt system. Now, I myself personally, I prefer the V-belt system. It's not as clean looking as the Serpentine setup, but it is more practical. Let me tell you why. So, in this particular truck, this is a 454 big block, and in this setup I have 3 belts. I have one mini Serpentine belt, which goes from the alternator to the fan to the crank. And then I have the V-belt that goes from the AC compressor to the power steering pump to the crank to the fan. And then the third belt just goes from the power steering pump to the crank. Now, the reason this is a more practical system is because if any one of these 3 belts break, I won't lose all of my systems. That's the downside to a Serpentine setup. If that one belt breaks, you lose everything. Your car's going to run hot. You won't have power steering. It's not going to be charging. The alternator's not going to be charging. And, whatever else is tied to it. So, and you're going to overheat because it's going to be turning the water pump. It's like not going to even turn it. So, in this situation, any one of these belts break, it's not the end of the world. If this belt breaks, right, so this is the belt that runs from the AC compressor to the power steering pump to the crank to the fan on a water pump. So if this one belt breaks, I still will have power steering. I'll still have the water pump will still be turning, and I will still have the alternator will still be running. If the power steering, the little power steering belt breaks, I'll still have power steering because of this belt. And when the alternator belt broke, I lost the alternator. It's the only thing I lost. But I had a good battery. And that's why it's important to keep a good battery, because I was still able to make it all the way to the shop on just the battery. So it didn't overheat because the fan was still turning. I still had power steering. I still had everything. I had everything but the alternator. And I still was able to make it here. And then I put a new belt on, and that was that. So that's why I prefer it. But anyway, picked up the new belts, and that's it. Now, unfortunately, I got to take the alternator belt back off in order to change these two, because these are both behind the alternator belt. So, on that note, YouTube, let's get to work.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at this. Somebody come and look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at this. Somebody come and look at this.
Woo! Still running good. Still running good.